Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here for our July webinar all about work. I know it's technically August, but we're bending the rules a little bit. Going to give a few more minutes to see if anyone else wants to hop on, and we'll start in the next 2 minutes. All right, I see some more people joining. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for jumping on our webinar today. We are just going to give 1 more minute for people to join, and we will get started. Okay, let's go ahead and kick it off. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for CID's presentation of our work forecast feature. I will go ahead and get the screen share going. All right. So this month we focused on work. And to get us kicked off, I will share a little bit of our insight on why we wanted to focus on this topic this month. We have been doing a ton of research and a ton of observing and also living through this massive transformation over the past 2 years, something that all of us have in common for sure. And we're now in this sort of in-between phase here in 2022, where we're watching these ripple effects from 2020, the post-COVID world, and we're seeing how these ripples are starting to reach and affect not only our industry, but every single industry. We listed a few here, but the housing market, commercial real estate, furniture industry, the auto industry, the fashion industry, and the list goes on, as we all know. Specifically, we wanted to focus this month on how these shifts are starting to impact, and actually starting to isn't even really the right word, how they have been and will continue to affect our workplace habits, and not only just our workplace habits confined to our office or even our home office, but people's entire lifestyle choices, especially focusing on housing. For example, we have seen that digital nomads are on the rise. More countries announce every single week, it seems like, that they have these new digital nomad visas available for people to come to their country and work. They're benefiting their economy by being there and spending money, and they're issuing these visas. People are able to be flexible and explore and travel while still working at a typical job that they had prior. People have this sense of this newfound freedom. We're really interested in seeing how this is affecting our industry, specifically in the multifamily segment, as far as home sharing and especially short-term leases, seeing that response to it. We've sort of started to see this shift between these short-term leaseholders or these short-term renters or even home sharing as being this loud partiers, having some sort of like a bachelor party, and they're loud and they're partying. But no, really, we have now these short-term leases held by these professionals who are working and they want to try out a city for a few months, or maybe they're on a contract, or maybe their office has offices in 5 cities across the US and they have the flexibility to travel and work in each of those offices. We're just really open to the future of all of these kinds of possibilities. So really excited to keep exploring that and see how that continues to evolve. And then to sort of sum it up, and we'll be talking about all of this in further detail through today's prez, but this post-2020 workspace, the workspace needs to be less homogenous. The spaces have to be flexible. We now know that we need communal spaces for collaboration, small private zones to take a call. We're always needing the communal space to work, this quiet space. Then we need a vibrant communal space where we're working near others, but we're working by ourselves. Then we need a communal space where we can work in person to have a group meeting with a bunch of other people. So there's all these needs that have evolved, and we as designers and researchers are setting out to explore and discover how we will create these spaces in our designed and built environment. So we will take a look at some of these ideas here. But before we get too into it, we wanted to touch on this idea of the work consumer. So like we talked about before, the post-2020 work is still kind of in flux a little bit. Companies and people working in offices are still adjusting to this new way of work, whether it's evolving flex work policies as we're seeing what's working, what's not working. And people are also evaluating that for themselves, not only from a company policy level, but just as a personal level. Does it work for me to work from home? Do I need to go into the office? How do I work best? What works for my lifestyle? So this is a little bit in flux still, but we do believe that the ideas and themes we touched on previously are sort of the core of what all of us from a company perspective, from a design perspective, and from an office worker perspective do need. Interesting stat here, 53% of people expect to work hybrid in 2022 and beyond. So we will see how that evolves. And then just a few notes here, people are seeking communal spaces to socialize and collaborate, yet they also need a quiet, private space to take these digital meetings. And we are seeing more and more people become sort of mobile and on the go. Okay, so we'll take a look at our what's in and what's out. This page kind of summarizes what we'll talk about in more detail throughout the rest of today's presentation, so I won't get into it too much. But essentially what's in, we're looking into this digital office aesthetic. What does that mean? And we'll break that down further. Volume down, we're talking about acoustics here, the idea of micros. So can we make the micro office even smaller? We'll get into that. Sitting is the new smoking, talking about standing desks a bit and standing workspaces. Working from anywhere, we'll touch on the digital nomad again. Thinking of more creative studio spaces and how we can work that into office design, bringing the outdoors out, but the outdoors in as well. Some ideas around fitness and having pets in the office, and then touching on the idea of personal comfort. So this is a nice summary page if you'd like to go back and look after just to see how we have sort of aligned and set up this presentation. All right, our first page here is all about the video background. I tried really hard to have a good one today because I knew this was going to be the very first page. And we all have struggled with this a bit. If you know you have a meeting that is, I don't know, with a special meeting that's not just your typical internal team, you want to present yourself professionally. It's like, you're like, okay, is my hair good? Is my lipstick good? What's my background? That's the new question that we're asking ourselves. So we're really thinking about how to design these video backgrounds because we know that these video meetings are no longer temporary. There may have been a time where we thought they were. We're like, oh, we'll go back into the office. But now that half the team is still digital, video calls are here to stay. So we threw around some ideas here. One thing we wanted to bring up was the idea of workstation placement relative to windows to avoid having that bad lighting on a video call. I kind of actually have that right now because the light is casting a shadow. How do we counteract that? Is it thinking of the orientation of these workstations when we're designing a big space where we know we'll have a work table and aligning it with the window placement in some way, or at least being mindful of it, or having some sort of curtains available or shades of some sort. Thinking of also this idea that we have here, you'll see in the upper right, but the idea of having maybe a ceiling mounted pull down screen or some sort of rotating canvas that can provide a clean backdrop that if you have a workstation or a desk or even a micro office, you're able to pull the screen down like when you get your passport photo taken at the drugstore. But thinking we could have a green screen and then you could have your digital background, your virtual background, nicely clean, have a spot to sort of land, or it could be a designed background that offers that, kind of answers that need too. Thinking of having ring lights at some of these stations so that people can have a little more control over the lighting. So really looking to explore this idea further as we do design workspaces going forward, especially knowing that we will be in this at least hybrid digital world going forward. Acoustic, designing with acoustics in mind is more important than ever, again, because of these video meetings. In these workspaces, whether it's an office or a co-working space, every single person, there won't be enough private offices or micro offices for every single person to be in one. There is going to be a time where people are talking to a screen and they're next to or across from someone else talking to a screen. So how can we mitigate that sound as much as possible by offering different kind of acoustic for these different kind of workstations? So we have a few things pictured here, having the sort of dividers on the work tables, having some of these acoustic bubbles that aren't quite a micro office that you could pop over to for a quick call without needing to reserve a whole office. And maybe that's just a sort of a touchdown point for a quick 20-minute conversation or phone call. So really exploring this idea and keeping this really top of mind when designing these workspaces. Okay, I feel like we've been leading up to this, but the idea of these micros. We have been seeing that our micro offices that we have been designing that can accommodate one person very comfortably, or two people, or even four people, are so popular that people are getting there first thing in the morning and camping out all day. And it's not so much of a transitory space with turnover, so that more and more people can use them to only take a private phone call or a video call. And so we are thinking that we need to evolve this a bit to be even smaller, micro, we've kind of coined it. And this is more of a perch. So you can see in all of these images, these workstations would be great for a couple meetings, one meeting, one phone call, but the user is not going to be comfortable in here for long because it's more of a perch. These are stools, there's no back, it's very small. The space, the desk space is more of a little ledge that only fits the laptop. And so this really helps to keep that turnover going so that people are using these pretty much exclusively for a phone call or a video call, and then they're transitioning out back into the rest of the workspace. And so this is something that we're really looking into doing more. And then of course, by making these smaller than the micro offices that are a bit bigger and a bit more comfortable to stay in all day, we can then fit more of these. So this is sort of this new concept and a new evolution of the micro office that we are seeing and reacting to and being proactive with, since we know that these video calls are here forever. Here are a few of these pods that our team has researched and tried and been speccing. So we wanted to just highlight a few of the specs that our team is loving. Okay, so to talk a little bit about sit stand, we do believe that at this stage that sit-stand desks should be pretty standard when designing workspaces. For your traditional desk, there should be some way to adjust it for sitting or standing. Now, for desks that are sit only, those can be easily upgraded with these standing desk converters like you see here. And to take this a little bit further, we have also been exploring the idea of not just having the standing of the ability to switch to sit stand for the desk, but also for height adjustable tables in meeting rooms, even in micro offices, not only the traditional desk setup. So really loving this evolution here. This is an example of a product that we think is sort of a nice spotlight for this idea. It's Herman Miller's IO1 Micropack, and it's a height adjustable, really small workstation. And we are loving the idea of speccing this as sort of a landing spot. If you just have a few minutes of casual work or you need to, we actually really love it for the idea of activating an area of sort of dead space anywhere within a project, even if it's not supposed to be a designated work zone. Even having this sort of by a ride share or something, people are waiting for their car, they're waiting for their food, they can pop out their phone, prop it up, do a video, take out their laptop or their iPad, send a couple emails, and it's just this nice little landing spot to activate areas for working throughout the space. Another idea would be kind of interesting to consider speccing these in corridors, sort of activating that space if you just need to pop out for a minute, take a call. So really interested in the application of this product. Okay, as promised, we're going to talk a little more about digital nomads, have some numbers here for us, but we have seen that the number of digital nomads increased from 4.8 million in 2018 to more than 11 million in 2021. And everyone agrees that this number is just expected to grow. Like we talked about before, more and more countries are issuing these digital nomad visas. More and more companies are allowing employees to work from a different country or are more flexible and working from different time zones. So we do really expect this idea to grow. And a solution to this for housing is a company called Landing. They help to facilitate and offer short-term leases. So they will act as the leaseholder, and then they're furnishing these apartments and across the entire country. And then they are leasing them to people on a short-term basis. And right now they're in about 375 cities. So we're starting to see the market respond to this need for this short-term rental housing. And it'll be interesting to see how that continues to evolve. We mentioned creative workspaces. We wanted to dedicate a page here to it, but this is the idea of a flex content studio. So we don't believe that working is necessarily a desk and a computer exclusively. We know that there are spaces that are needed to create different kinds of content, especially as things become, like we keep saying, more and more digital, more focused on almost more casual, more, I mean, we don't really need to mention social media. We know that that is continuing to grow and evolve too, but there's more need for these spaces to stage photos, to have a soundproof space to create videos, to create podcasts. And we love the idea that these spaces can be multi-purpose because these spaces can be used as an office, as a meeting room, as a soundproof quiet room with a nice backdrop to take a digital meeting, just like we're all on too. So really liking the idea of this flex content studio, creative spaces to create content. We wanted to spotlight LinkedIn's outdoor cowork because we think it's just one of the ones we've seen that's so well done. We've seen, I'm sure we've all seen the outdoor working setups before with some shade structure and some power, but LinkedIn really went all out. They went for it. They have full shade structures. They even have the integrated conference room software. They have the TV setup. They have the shade structure. They have, of course, the integrated power. Just really interesting to see how this idea will continue to evolve. Of course, it's climate dependent, seasonal too, but thinking that as we saw so many people start to go outside, value the outdoors more, that some of this idea will stay. So we will keep an eye on the practicality and feasibility of outdoor cowork too. Some ways to bring the outdoors inside. We wanted to spotlight this product, this green wall pod from Hush Office, and it's an acoustic panel, but it has these slots here that you can slot plants in. And they actually recommend on their website, it's pretty cool, the specific plants that are best for air purification. So they've done all that research for us, and these plants that you see here are the ones that they recommend the most. So it has a little bit of the air purification factor. Of course, you're getting the biophilic benefits, and then they're kind of acting as this acoustic panel too. So really cool product. Fitwork. We have talked about this so many times, but we believe in it so much that we just keep bringing it back. We love the idea of bringing fitness into the workspace, into the co-work space through a walking treadmill, having some of these yoga balls available to sit on, the underdesk pedalers, the tablet bikes, even this is a pull-up bar, but it's a really beautiful one, having that in the office space so that when your Apple Watch tells you that it's time to stand up and do something and take a work break, you can go do a couple of pull-ups, go back to your desk. Having some of these ways to make these workspaces feel like they're integrated into your everyday, that they fit your lifestyle, and that they're not stagnant spaces for only heads down computer work. We are huge fans of making some zones of these co-work spaces dog friendly. And one way that we believe this can be done that is respectful to all other people working in the space is to have a few of these micro offices that are designated as dog friendly. So they'll have a non-carpet floor that's easily cleaned if the water bowl gets spilled or there's a dog accident. And have some bowls available in there that just designates it as being dog friendly, having a dog bed. Projects where we've done this in the past, people who walk past and see the dog in there, they think it's so cute, they want to take a picture. It just brings a little bit of levity to that space. Another product that we love that we just gave a mini shout out to is this dog hook. And so it just allows you to tether your dog in a space near you. It can be used indoor or outdoor. So that could be a nice feature too in these dog friendly spaces. Environmental controls is something else important for the workspace. This is actually a factor too, or a component of, I believe, Fit Well and the Well Building Standard, but having availability for people to have temperature, lighting, and some visual controls to create a customized, healthy workspace for them is something that's important. We like the idea of having a sharing closet that gives users, whether it's in an office or a co-work space, giving them access to additional task lighting, fans, ring lights, even we're bringing back the idea of that rotating backdrop for video calls so that they can transform the space behind them to customize that as well. We think that that is a really an idea that we know exists in these standards, and we want to make sure we're designing for keeping in mind. Another product that we wanted to spotlight here is from Steelcase, and they're calling it their work tents. And we love this idea because it's playful, it's fun, it's a nice way to retrofit a space that is fully open and enclosing it a little bit into at least a semi-private space like you see here, or creating these more private spaces with their smaller work tents. And then they even have a little tabletop version that you can just kind of get yourself into a mini little tent cave there. We talked about a little bit about creative spaces before, and we wanted to take it a step further with this idea of a maker lab. We've said it before, but not all the work is done in front of the computer. So depending on the sort of space that we're designing for, maybe it's an office, maybe it's a co-work space, but having a maker lab, even if it's small, even if it's one office space size, or even a micro office, having access to some of these hand tools, 3D printers, woodworking equipment, giving people a way to, we say like a kinetic way to work. So working with your hands, figuring things out, working on modeling things in 3D versus doing everything on the screen all the time. We think that this is a little bit of innovation that is a nice thing to incorporate into the office. And I believe this is our last slide here, but our final product that we wanted to leave you all with is the Muzzy Picnic. And so it doesn't look like this buttoned up corporate work table, but it has all the functions of one. So it has, of course, this picnic table vibe, and they actually have integrated electrification boxes hidden underneath the wood covers, mobile devices. It's designed kind of smart with these grooves. You can pop up your mobile device in so that it stands, which is kind of a cool way to integrate that traditional picnic table design to have sort of a further purpose. So we wanted to share that as well. And that does conclude our work forecast feature for this month. Thank you all so much for being here. If there's any questions, I can check into the chat and we will respond to those via email. We will be sending out this recording after, so you can take another look at it, or if you enjoyed it, forward it on to someone. And we really do appreciate everyone's time, and thank you all so much for being here.